In South Africa, we have a saying, justice delayed is justice denied. But what do you call it when justice isn't just delayed? It's distorted. We live in a country where you can be a national hero on Saturday and a cold case by Sunday. Today, we're looking at two of the most painful wounds in our collective memory. Two men who reached the pinnacle of their careers only to be taken in the streets that they call home. This isn't just about the murder of a rapper and a goalkeeper. This is about the terrifying reality that in 2026, high-profile arrests don't always mean high-profile answers. Think about the similarities. Both were killed in the presence of witnesses. Both cases saw breakthrough arrests that were broadcast to the nations with grand promises of closure. Yet, as we sit here today, one of the trials has dragged on for over a decade, with the 2026 testimony still debating cell phone pings and contested confessions. Meanwhile, the other investigation has crossed borders to Eswatini, involving complex extraditions and alleged masterminds who claim they are just four guys. In both stories, the who is sitting in the courtroom dock, but the why is still a ghost. Now, AKA was known to have many relationships during his career, and some of them haven't been always the smoothest and easy sailing. However, one of them took the country by storm. This is Bonang Mateo, one of the biggest celebrity exports from South Africa, currently the sole owner of House of B&G and legend in the South African entertainment industry. This is Zinhle, probably the most successful DJ in South Africa, recognized by the country as one of the pioneers of the early 2000s house music DJ booms, current sole owner of the watch brand Air. In 2015, while Zinhle was pregnant, Bonang would start dating the man that made her pregnant at the time, her boyfriend, rapper extraordinaire, AKA. This would create a lifelong beef between the two ladies that's lasted till this day. And like, if those women are beefing against each other, then who the hell is this incisor taking a picture in front of AKA's car? At some point, it all came to a head. It had nothing to do with these women at all though. Let's back up a bit. In May 2021, AKA decides to finally settle down and get married. He pays ilobola, and by customary terms, he's essentially married at that point to this woman, Nelly Dembe, daughter of Moses Dembe, a respected businessman in KZN. 1 month later, while returning from a night out, Nelly is found having fallen 10 stories from the hotel they were staying at. The death is ruled a suicide. Her family doesn't let AKA, her husband, speak at her funeral. Weeks later, AKA is grilled at an interview about the night in question. The Dembe family opens an injunction for the police to investigate the suspicious circumstances of Nelly's death. 7 months later, after allegedly being told not to go to KZN, AKA would announce he'd finally be returning and performing in Durban. 2 hours before his scheduled performance, he'd have dinner with friends at Wish. While making his way out of the restaurant, he'd hug his longtime friend, Tibbs. After the hug, a gunman would sneak up from behind. Now, the police were quick to the scene, and it seemed that the case would be solved quickly given the status of the man who was just murdered. However, as months dragged on, the hope of finding the men responsible seemed bleak. Hang on. Firstly, let's look at the outfit of the first shooter from CCTV. A white bucket hat and a light grey hoodie. We actually saw this outfit earlier during the dinner at Wish. There we go. White bucket hat and light grey hoodie. Clearly he was in the restaurant. What was he doing inside? The cops went back to the restaurant and asked for footage inside the restaurant. Turns out the man bought a drink. Now, this is where you separate assassins from your run-in-the-mill Nkabi. Instead of paying cash, the idiot fortunately paid with his debit card. They found that the same debit card was used to purchase airtime earlier, and they were able to trace the same man from the footage using other CCTV videos. Turns out, the debit card had been opened that day for a Nzimande. The account received 100,000 a day after the hit. The two shooters on the night were brothers Sia and Melusi Nzimande. Who the hell are these guys? Following the money trail, they found that Mziwe Themba Kwabeni hired the brothers and 3 others for the hit. He also found a stolen Mercedes-Benz as the getaway car and used his own BMW to follow AKA from King Shaka Airport. Mziwe Themba was given 900,000 for the hit a day after by a company called Bright Circle, in a payment disguised as a legitimate mining and taxi association payment. The question still remains though. Who ordered the hit? Now that we just looked at the night in Durban that silenced the super mega, we have to look back in 2014, a night in Vosloorus that changed everything. It's been 12 years since Senzo Meyiwa was killed in what was initially called a botched robbery. But 12 years of court dates have painted a picture that is anything but simple. We aren't going to talk about the intruders or the witnesses you've heard about 1,000 times in the news. We're going to look at the atmosphere of that night, the tragedy of a captain who thought he was safe amongst friends.
This is a story of a national hero, a captain of Bafana Bafana, who was killed in a house full of people, yet for 10 years, police still can't tell us who pulled the trigger. This is the Senzo Meyiwa heist, except the only thing stolen was the truth. On the 26th of October 2014, Senzo Meyiwa was at his girlfriend Kelly Khumalo's mother's house in Vosloorus. There were 6 other people in that house, including Kelly's sister Uzandi and her boyfriend at the time, Longwe Twala, the son of music legend Chico Twala. Suddenly, according to the initial story, 2 intruders burst in demanding cell phones. A struggle broke out, a shot was fired, and Senzo was hit in the chest. He was rushed to the hospital but was declared dead on arrival. Let me pause for a second. For years, the official line was that this was a robbery gone wrong. But you're telling me that 2 guys walk in a house full of people, kill the most famous person there, and then only walk out with 1 cheap cell phone? That makes 0 sense. The public was screaming that the people inside knew what happened. Let's back up a bit. To understand the mess, you have to look at the timeline of the investigation. In 2014, right after the murder, a man named Zamuguhle Mbatha was arrested, but the charges were dropped because of lack of evidence. For the next 6 years, the case gathered dust while Senzo's father, Sam Meyiwa, literally spent the rest of his life crying for justice until he passed away in July 2019. The story already smells fishy. You've got Longwe Twala going on national radio and completely glitching his own story. First, he tells the world that he was a hero who ran out of the house to get help and his phone was taken before he ran out. But later he contradicts himself, admitting that his phone was on him the whole time. I mean, if you're running for your life from people who look like killers, then why are you lying about your Nokia? Then on the 6th-year anniversary, 26 October 2020, the police finally arrested 5 men. Umuzi Sibia, Bongani Ntanzi, Mthobisi Ncube, Mthokozisini Maphisa, and Fisokuhle Ntuli. But the bombshell didn't drop until the trial started in April 2022. The state started bringing evidence that this wasn't a robbery at all. In January 2024, a lead investigator testified that Kelly Khumalo, who had allegedly been in contact with one of the accused, Mthobisi Ncube, that she had allegedly tried to clear her house with a traditional healer before the hit. But the defense also grilled witnesses about Longwe Twala's involvement, suggesting that he might have been the one to bring the gun into the house that night. I will say though, while everyone was pointing fingers at Kelly Khumalo, there's one person that the public almost entirely ignored. Mandisa Mkhize, Senzo's legal wife. You see, in the eyes of the law, Mandisa was still the widow who stood to gain everything: the insurance payouts, the estate, and the status, while Kelly was just the mistress who lost her meal ticket and her reputation. In a world of motives, the wife had every reason to want the other woman out of the picture by taking out the man. 10 years later, the trial is still dragging on in the Gauteng High Court. The robbery story has been deleted, and what's left is a tangled web of hitmen and cell phone tower pings. It turns out the biggest mystery in South African sports wasn't about who entered the house, but about why nobody was allowed to leave until the story was straight. So far in this country, we've witnessed 2 high-profile celebrity murders that had arrests but haven't been solved all the way.
It seems that the crime in South Africa has gotten so bad that not even public popularity can shield you from it. In fact, it may actually fuel criminals to do more damage as it gives them notoriety. I hope both Senzo and AKA rest in peace. Now, I want to pose this question to you. Do you think these cases will ever get solved, and why? You guys know me, but are you guys ready for Cypher Sundays? For all the rappers, follow me on Instagram @_Ogrim and send me your rap content to get invited to the Braamfontein studio if you live within the Gauteng area. If you're a viewer, hit that subscribe button and hit the join button for 20 Rand for early access to uncut videos. If you're willing to subscribe for 20 Rand, you may just get to a point where we get 3 videos a week. Who knows? There's nobody who works harder than your boy.